He'll point to you.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, Monday, August 9th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mazzi, would you like to announce yourself?
Hi, John Marcy is on the phone.
Thank you. All right, consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we accept the consent agenda, including executive session minutes of 7/26/2021, but not to release those minutes as it's an ongoing issue.
Mr. Sullivan, could we do the appointments separate, or would you like to look those in?
Either way, whatever the chair desires.
Mr. Landry's here, so if you want to pull
Okay.
him out, that's...
Yeah, let's do them separate.
I'll second.
Good.
So you don't need a motion?
Already did, I made the motion in second.
We don't have to vote? Okay.
I'll mark up after.
So the regular meeting minutes of 7/26.
Motion made to accept.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Carrie Siganovich, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Item B, Mr. Chair, executive session minutes of 7/26/2021, accept but not release due to the ongoing issue.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, to make an appointment for a vacant position, Mark Landry, who is present, to be town constable for a term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Second.
Would you like to come up, Mr. Landry?
Sure. The one?
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Use them both if you want.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board of Selectmen. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the town of Dudley in greater depth than I am already. And want to give public thanks to the fire chief and the paramedics that assisted me, and because of them, I'm here today. So I want to thank them and make sure they're recognized. Apparently, there were two of them. I don't know who they were, but I believe the chief does, and just give their name a shout out. I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head, Mac, but I'll get the names of the one on the call.
Thank you, sir. So that's it.
Well, thank you for becoming a constable.
We have a vote on it.
My pleasure.
Oh, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous. Now, thank you for being a constable.
Thank
Good to hear your voice, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, item D, appointment to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, George Petrino's term to expire June 30th, 2024. I don't see George here, but he needs no introduction. I nominate
Second.
George.
Second from Mr. Mazzi. Roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Town Administrator's Report.
Mr. Chairman, with the board's permission, most of my the work I did this week is scheduled for executive, so I'm going to ask to not be held my report tonight publicly. There are a few other items I was tracking that we'll put on the next agenda that just weren't ready yet.
Okay. Next, licenses, permits. Nichols College. Do outdoor orchestra entertainment license, fall opening 2021 events, Friday, August 26th to Sunday, August 29th.
Good evening, thank you.
Hi. Can you tell us who you are again?
I'm sorry, I'm PJ Bojo. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs at Nichols College.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, unless PJ wants to elaborate a little bit, what times will this be held outside?
Throughout the day, for move-in for Thursday, everything will be over by 10 p.m. on either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, 5 p.m. on Sunday.
So, Mr. Chair, the outside music will be over by 10, you're saying?
Yeah.
Because on here, it doesn't say anything about Thursday, it just says,
Thursday is just, we're doing some welcoming, so it'll be on the speakers all. It's not music that night. It's just lawn games that night.
Looks like Saturday from 7 to 11, there's a foam dance and beer garden.
Outside.
Didn't have that when I went there.
Not on campus.
yeah. Wasn't enough beer on campus for them. Both chiefs had a chance to review it for any public safety issues?
No, I haven't had officers up there during those times.
Fire EMS, okay?
Yeah, I think we're all set. It's not an event we'll do. It's not anything as far as I know.
It's the board's pleasure.
Yeah, make a motion that we grant request from Nichols College, outdoor orchestra entertainment license, the fall opening weekend, beginning Thursday and ending Sunday at 5 p.m.
Mr. Sullivan, could you add in the 10 p.m. piece? Because I don't see that anywhere in the documents.
All right, at the applicant's answer, the entertainment will end at 10 o'clock.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Sullivan, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Thank you.
Is there another
Yeah.
license?
Make
Okay.
a motion that we grant the common victual license for 2021 to Nichols College.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Thank you.
PJ.
New business. KP Law.
Mr. Chairman, as the board recalls, we've been working at a intermunicipal agreement with Webster for shared health agent and Title V inspector services. KP Law represents both Webster and Dudley. According to KP Law, they feel that there's no conflict of interest. They're representing for the purposes of reviewing the IMA. They did a legal review representing both towns. They'd like us to acknowledge their determination, which is in your folders, and consent to vote to approve the town council to represent Dudley regarding review and negotiation of health agent and Title V inspector IMA. So in other words, instead of us going out and hiring another law firm to make the review of this document, they feel that they've determined that they don't feel that there's a conflict of interest, and they'd like us to vote to acknowledge that so that we can move forward with it.
And if there's a conflict between the towns, we'd seek an alternative.
That would generally be the outcome. This was a legal review of terms that both the town administrator Webster and I came to, and it was there were no legal HUD issues. It was just a wording review, basically, to make sure that the IMA passed muster and is pursuant to Mass General Law and so forth.
So, Mr. Chair, this was just kind of like a review triggered by KP Law. because they represent both towns? It wasn't anything we asked for, or did Webster ask for it? It just came about because of the negotiation?
Well, because they represent both of us, it's important that both of their clients are aware that they represent both of us
Okay.
and acknowledge that.
I guess my simple question was no like red flag per se, it just was a,
No, this is
Pro forma.
very much so.
okay. So we need separate votes, Mr. Chair, one for the, to accept KP Law.
So we're asking, Mr. Chairman, that the board vote to approve town council to represent Dudley regarding review and negotiation of health agent and Title V inspector, IMA. That's what we're looking to do on this 5A.
On this first document.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve town council to represent Dudley regarding review and negotiation of health agent and Title V inspectors, IMA intermunicipal agreement.
Second.
Any more conversation?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Terry
John
Siganovich, aye.
Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous. Board of Selectmen vote to approve the IMA for health agent and Title V services.
Mr. Chairman, that having been completed, the proposed IMA that the board has had since the last meeting has been legally reviewed by KP. They have no legal changes to make to it that haven't been made already and presented to the board. So my recommendation is that the board vote to authorize the town administrator to execute the IMA in its current form.
Mr. Chair. Although it's in the document, can the town administrator just touch upon it's not a negative financial impact on the town, just briefly run over the numbers real quick, if that's okay?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, we scheduled back in June, we budgeted and the town meeting approved 22.5 for health agent services, which is consistent with what we've been paying for the past year or two. We have a vacancy for our health agent. Going forward, the town of Dudley would pay Webster 22.5 and have shared services with their full-time health agent. So there's no additional money to fund this IMA. We would have better access to the health agent because, again, it's a full-time employee of the next door town that we'd now be contracting with to provide services to us. So we'd be able to get that full-time employee on the phone Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. We would study, out of this 5-year contract, we'd study the first 3 years. We'd look at what the average cost compared to the amount of services provided by that health agent provided to Dudley. We'd take a look at the overall cost and we would see what percentage of services were provided to Dudley versus Webster, and we would adjust that 22.5 accordingly. So if we found out that, for example, we did 10 or 15% of the total amount of that health agent's 40-hour week, we would take their salary, which is, I believe, in the high 60s, low 70s, and we would adjust it accordingly so that we pay 10 or 15% of that salary. In terms of the Title V inspector, we have significantly more septic, private septic systems in Dudley than what they do in Webster. So when they needed to have a Title V inspection completed, they would call us and pay our Title V inspector straightforward pay to do those inspections, and it would work out pretty well. We have plenty of work for both of them.
Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you. So, to the administrator, at the negotiation of year 5, we take the average. Is it a 1-year renewal, or we do like another 4-year renewal?
We'd have actual data to go forward with.
Okay.
That would, that we would negotiate, if the town of Dudley wanted to continue with this arrangement, we actually know how much of the services are being provided to Dudley versus Webster and vice versa. And that would give us a basis to renegotiate a contract or to leave the contract if we felt that it wasn't suitable to the town's needs.
Okay, thank you.
So the events that are being measured are food-related permits, inspections and re-inspections, mobile food permits, which are food trucks, essentially tobacco sale permit, trash hauler permit, outdoor wood boiler permit, pools, portable toilet permits, well permits, general complaints, camp permits, beaver permits, drain layer license, nail salon permit, town beach water testing events, septic hauler permit, and catering, which essentially covers all the services that we provide on the Dudley side. I know.
What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement for health agent and Title V services with the town of Webster.
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous.
I can do that.
Water Sewer Department, vote and sign retainer agreement for PFAS litigation.
Well, Scott's coming up, Mr. Chairman. There's been several legal firms that are representing cities and towns throughout the state to come back at some of the generators of the chemicals that are now have been found to contain PFAS and are believed to have been responsible, depending on the source, for PFAS contamination. I forwarded all of those firms that have solicited us to the Water and Sewer Commissioners. They've settled on a firm which has been, their retainer has been looked at by KP Law, Town Council, and slightly modified, and I believe Mr. Zakowski has a recommendation. Lynn, looking for the board's authorization to move forward with authorizing them to represent the Water and Sewer Commissioners in the town of Dudley for that litigation.
Yes, at our meeting on August 4th, it was a unanimous vote of the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners to ask the Board of Selectmen to enter into this retainer for, they were the first people to come out. They had seems to be the largest of the firms that are involved in this. It's going to be, I would imagine it's going to be years of back and forth between them. No cost to Dudley.
Zero cost to Dudley.
Zero cost.
Unless a sum is recovered, and they would
They
take 25%.
they take their fees off of the.
Right, but if we don't, Scott, if we don't win anything, they don't get paid.
What's that?
If we don't get not awarded any money, they don't get paid.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So my only question, Mr. Chair, Section 4 withdrawal, just says the firm has the right to withdraw upon a reasonable notification. What would they deem reasonable? They wouldn't just walk in and say 2 weeks' notice? You know what I mean? How bad would that leave you guys hanging?
There have been a number of these type cases that have already been adjudicated. This is just yet another one going after the folks who made these chemicals and put them into general use.
Right, like just like, I guess
If they back out, then we would retain another one.
there's no time frame, like 30 days notice. 40
No, I think that's, Mr. Chairman, I think that's pretty standard to
That's
give.
boilerplate.
To give a firm the ability to walk away from a case. Again, this was reviewed by town council, just to make sure that we weren't, and they were representing us, obviously, to make sure that we weren't entering into some sort of retainer agreement that wasn't in the best interest of the town. And they did make some modifications and did do some slight negotiating on our behalf to make sure that the town is completely covered and it wouldn't be left hanging in any way. So I feel confident with what they suggested in terms of that retainer agreement.
It's one of the largest national law firms dealing with this stuff. They did a lot of MTBE work in the past.
Any other questions for Mr. Zakowski? What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, based on the recommendation of town administrator who brought forth the town council, I make a motion that we approve retainer agreement for PFAS litigation with Appley
Skolnick.
PLLC, 360 Lexington Avenue, 11th floor, New York, New York, 10017.
Second.
Sullivan, any chance you would also add in the water sewer department as a recommendation?
I'm sorry, yeah. At the beginning of the motion, Michelle, you just had, Mr. Zakowski indicated the unanimous vote of the water and sewer. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Is that okay with you?
That's fine with the seconder.
Good call.
He's on his
It's a
game
big
tonight.
chair, but I'm
Yeah.
handling it, Mr. Mazzi.
There was some concern coming in, but you can stay right where you
Fine
are.
job.
Well, there's still some concern.
Fine job.
You can stay right where you are, Mr.
All right, any more conversation? All right, hearing none, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Gary Siganovich,
So much, yeah.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott.
Police chief. No Jake break signage on Oxford Ave.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, or evening. We're getting some complaints about truck traffic, truck noise, and different things on Oxford Avenue. And so one of the discussions was limiting the use of the Jake brakes, which is the special braking system that's on some of the trucks. And what it does when they activate it, it almost sounds like gunfire or something going off. It's very loud. So talked with Mr. Andrelevich from the gravel pit there to see if it's necessary for that area. He says they're totally not necessary. So I discussed about the fact of putting a sign up to prohibit the use of these braking systems in the area, mostly between Pine Street and the town line. So if the board approves this, we'll just look for a space with the highway department, find out where's a good area to put it, and just put that prohibition up there to help ease some of the noise and things on the neighbors that are there. So I think it's, as the highway commissioners, I think the board just has to approve that, unless the highway superintendent has anything else to add. I think it's just a vote of the board to approve putting that sign up in that area on Oxford Avenue.
Mr. Chair, to the chief, how would we enforce it? Like if someone says, oh, you know, the purple truck went by and Jake brakes.
Well, it's like any other traffic citation that could be done, so it would go under like I believe a Chapter 9016 violation is a prohibited act. Whether it happens in your presence or not, depending on how it works, you can still write a citation to an individual if you didn't actually see what was happening there, as long as you have the cooperation of that individual who wants to come forward and be the main person to testify on it. But it'll certainly just help in any facet that we're doing traffic in the area and these types of situations happen. It allows that one extra piece of enforcement to take place.
So, I'm not trying to penalize any business, but that's a pretty tight turn down there. There's no other way we can send those trucks coming down that road, right?
Well, most of these are coming, I think, between Oxford and Webster. They're just traveling the straight stretch there. There's very little going on onto Pine Street or any of the side streets that are in that area. But I think that was one of the issues, is they're coming, especially heading towards the Webster line. Some of the trucks have been using those brakes in that area, and it's thickly settled, and again, apartments and everything else. So it really rattles windows and causes problems. So it's just one thing to prohibit it. And it's, in the opinion of the folks that drive the trucks, it's not necessary in that area because it's not a steep enough grade or there's no other conditions in that area that would warrant the use of those types of brakes at that time, so.
Right, you know, to be clear too, Mr. Chair, I think, I've talked to a couple people over there, and the assumption is it's the pits in town, but they kind of made it clear, they don't think it's the local operators' trucks. They think it's the subcontractors, and they had some of the names, which I'm not gonna name, but I think for the most part, they did not say it was the contractor, the local guys. And as we know from the other issue, they do have speed GPS in their trucks, so if their guys are going over 25, they can pin it down to the foot where they are, so.
Yeah, I think it's easier to control a lot of local folks, and they're more respectful of everything that's taking place there. But yeah, you can't control all the out-of-town operations that go either from the gravel pit or even just that road itself is very busy for truck traffic. This at least will provide sufficient warning for any of those drivers, especially the ones from other companies. They should know to avoid that type of situation.
As a matter of fact, the other day, Mr. Chair, it's Webster's, not us, but somebody sent a picture, a truck was trying to make the right turn. If you go down there and look, the sidewalk is just destroyed from the weight, but somebody took the pole down, the stoplight pole, coming that way. It's in Webster, it's not us per se, but we get it in another 50 feet.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, some of these streets weren't built for the trucks. You know, they've been in existence for a couple hundred years now, and trucks weren't to run around when they were built, so infrastructure issue.
Yeah, one of those presentations we had, clean streets, or we had a couple residents in here talking about that as well, right?
Yes, yeah, I recall that. It was with the CDBG presentation, correct.
And Mr. Chair, too, I think it's not so much the roads, it's those older houses when they get those vibrations, because somebody sent me a picture of there. Of course, they say it was the trucks, I believe, I don't think anybody hit the house and cracked it, you know?
Well, there are cuts in the road, I believe, from when the gas company did work there. I mean, they filled in, obviously, the ruts and things that they made for the service connections, but it does provide, especially with the winter and things like that, shrinking and expanding, it does provide almost some type of bump in there. But one of the challenges is it's difficult to go and just repave it because you got to figure out where it is in the priority list to get done, number one. But number two, with the discussions about doing that Jericho area over again, you're not sure what type of activity is going to take place for service connections and things leading into that spot. So you wouldn't want to go repaving the whole road and then having to dig it up in another year or two if they're going to be doing something else major. So it is on the list, and I know the highway superintendent's on top of it too, so we'll get something done as soon as we can.
I think it's a good first step, Mr. Chair, and then maybe get a little enforcement over there and catch people's attention. And 'cause I have seen them in other communities, no Jake break in the village, it says.
Right.
Any more questions for Chief? It's a board's pleasure.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we have the police chief and the highway superintendent get together over there, figure out where and how many signs they want to put up, have them put them up and just report back to us when they're done. Report to the administrator.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
Ron Murphy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
chief.
you.
And thank the resident too that brought it forward.
Board member comments. Mr. Mazzi.
I have nothing tonight, Mr. Johnson. Thank you.
I have nothing as well. It's been a slow 2 weeks.
Mr. Chair, I just want to just bring forward again, the virus isn't gone yet. Vaccines are available for those that choose. A lot of times it's not about just you, it's about who you're bringing it home to, and constantly evolving. So people, just take care of yourself, as we always say. Check on your neighbors, check on the elderly, check on the shut-ins. Just be safe, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for putting up with my first go at this.
Piece of cake.
That's it. How about anyone else have anything? Interdepartmental. Chief?
I just have a quick update on the hazardous waste day thing we've been working on.
It's a thing.
Canceling it.
Okay.
I was gonna ask him if it was long, but I don't wanna set him off.
Wow.
Careful.
No money, no money.
Thank you.
Cords everywhere. So just a quick update on the household hazardous products collection. As you know, we got some money donated, so we're going to run a similar program as last time to NEDT. We have the listed dates of September 1st, 2021 through December 31st of 2021. You can go some highlights of it. It's pay up to $100 per person, but all the instructions are in there. Directions to the facility, a list of the cost of what it costs to dispose certain items. I'm gonna put this pamphlet and all the related information on the town, well, I'll have Mr. Ruda put it on the town website, and we can put it on the fire department website. We can also put it on both Facebook pages, and we'll get the information out there. Maybe I can have Fred put it up on the cable access channel, so we have a few weeks of advertising before it starts. If there's money left over at December 31st, there's no reason why we can't extend it into the first of the year. It's just we put a date range in there. Basically, they'll bill me every month until the funds are totally used up. So I figured everybody's been asking about this, including the board, so now we finally have the opportunity to do it.
Excellent. Good.
That's all I got. Thank you. Treasurer collector?
I don't want to be the one spoiling your evening. Just a couple of things. Real estate bills were due last week. They're now officially late. Water sewer bills probably get mailed in a week and a half, something like that. Life is good. We have the MCTA, the Mass Collector Treasurers Association School. We've got Tatum going off this week. I get to scoot off for a day. So it'd be nice to Danielle for the first day she's going to be alone. So life is grand.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
George?
A couple things. The people at Mason Road have been noticing there are some dust issues and some stone in the road, so we're going to be addressing that tomorrow. Make sure they can button things up a little bit after the end of the day. Of course, the climate's getting a little dry right now, so I'll see if we can fix things up there. As many know, through the alert, we've had two main breaks again. One over on Pine Street area, which is just one stub going up Pine from Pine to Charlton Road. It's a dead-end line, but it's one of those AC pipes again. And unfortunately, it took us about 20 minutes to shut it down, so it was kind of an issue with the debris and the paving of the road. They ended up covering a lot of the shut-off box up. So I do want to thank Officer James Mastro Giovanni for helping me by myself trying to get on that valve. He was sweeping the water away from it so I could get down there and start chopping at it, probably for about 20 minutes. So I want to show my appreciation for that. We did get complaints of dirty water, but it ended up subsiding. We did some flushing and that, so hopefully we don't have anything like that again. But the way our record's showing, it hasn't been too good so far. But otherwise, everything else is going pretty good.
George, quick question. As I always say, I don't do social media, but other members of our board do, and one of our members sent me a screenshot. Commissioner Conley spoke up on social media to try to straighten out some of the disinformation that certain people like to put out there about, don't talk about this, we're not allowed to. So I just want to thank him, if you can thank him when you see him.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing the person did mention, and probably not so much you and your commissioners, but they were talking about minutes being posted to the website. We have links to the minutes or something. Do we post our minutes?
Always.
Yeah, they were just saying maybe they weren't up there as quick as maybe people anticipated, but the easiest thing to do is call the office.
Yes.
There's a water issue.
Yeah,
Don't take the social media.
A lot of the questions are coming in because of the water quality. How's the water? How's the water? The water's fine. It's always been fine, okay? We are meeting the state regs. We are under the limit. We have been under the limit. The blending is working fine. So we're still waiting anticipation of our big treatment vessel to come in to be put over station number 3. And that should be scheduled still sometime in October, providing something doesn't go wrong there. But otherwise, everything is, if any questions, call our office. They'll give you any information you need, and I wish more people would utilize the office to get their questions answered, because Jen is great at answering questions. And I wouldn't want to mess with the colonel anyway, so.
And you were pretty clear, George. The water is fine.
Yes, yes.
For everybody out there, all the doubters and naysayers.
Highway?
George.
Highway?
I think I'm pretty well set, other than just we'll be doing one more week this week with sales at the for the recycling center. Wednesday, 11 to 7, and Saturday 8 to noon. So people haven't gotten their dump stickers yet. They can get them those dates. There won't be any sales next week. And our crews will be out over the next couple of days doing stop bars and crosswalks painting. So that's about it.
Jeff, quick question, Mr. Chair. I know we talked about a month or two ago, we got a grant to dispose of the mattresses. Is that what, we're waiting for that? Because there's a good-sized pile back there, right?
Correct. So we're waiting for a container and for that to come in, and there's a vendor that we have to deal with to do that, and then there's a specific method of stacking and whatnot. And I think we're supposed to be all squared away as far as the state's concerned with DEB, correct?
Right. Yep.
That was a grant for that, right?
There was.
Yes.
Okay. Well, someone just mentioned it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, there are a fair amount, and again, we did wait because we had taken in quite a few earlier in the season, early summer. Apparently, people had updated quite a few mattresses, and so they have accumulated, and we've been waiting to get the container to appropriately dispose of those.
Thank you.
Any update on from the state on the bridge?
We don't have any update yet. We've pretty much in the same status quo as the last meeting. We had a meeting with the engineer, and we're just waiting to hear some word as far as approvals on moving forward with a temporary solution. We don't have. We're actually waiting for a quote from the engineer as well for their services. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks,
Jeff.
Chief Wayne, you passed, right? Anything from the constable's office? Nothing yet? All right.
Mr. Chairman, we got a pretty action-packed agenda in executive tonight, so as a member of the board makes a motion to move into executive, item 11 allows the board to reconvene into open session and if required, vote or take any action relative to executive session and adjournment. So for the public that might be here or might be interested, if we reconvene into regular session, I'm not going to ask Fred to stay because it's going to be a little bit of time while we're in executive. So it won't, the rest of it, if we do reconvene into open session, we're simply going to open this door to allow the public to come in if they're interested in hearing any further action taken publicly by the Board of Selectmen. It won't, in other words, it won't be a video broadcast. I just want to make it abundantly clear that should you want to hear any action taken as a result of executive, come to this room and we'll be right here with the door open when we reconvene into open session. You're welcome to come listen.
The door will be open downstairs if someone wants to come.
Door will be open until we leave and lock it,
Okay.
as it is now.
Okay. Would you like me to read this, Mr. Sullivan?
All you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we convene into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declare, police grievance. And MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 21A6, to consider the value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on a negotiating position of the public body. Stevens Mills redevelopment project, Carolyn Murphy.
Right.
And lastly, in pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, to conduct strategy session in preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions, police lieutenant, and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, town administrator. We may reconvene into open session, and if required, vote and take any action relative to executive session and adjournment.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Harry Sigenovich, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Unanimous.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
we're gonna call Mr. Marcy back in a minute.
Hey, thank you.